Welcome to the Industry Angel Podcast. We hear from the best business minds across the globe. Entrepreneurs, social influencers, marketing mavens, and sales rock stars. We've got them all. Here comes your weekly dose of inspiration with your host, Ian Farah.
Good morning. We are back. I was going to tell you what day it was, but I don't even know. I'm going to look at my watch. It's Wednesday, apparently. These days, crazy. We threw this live one in pretty quickly with our friends Rob and Kennedy from Email Marketing Heroes. I hope I got that right, because I know nothing what's going on. I've been chucked right in the deep end here, and I'm going to throw these guys right in. Lads, listen, this was just like planned within days' notice, so I'm going to really apologize because I just know nothing about what we're doing, which is great because that's the whole nature of live streaming, isn't it? And you guys are all over this stuff, right? Live streaming experts?
I don't know if we're live streaming expert. I mean, we've been on a lot of podcasts, we do a lot of speaking, and we used to do a live stream every day, actually, until about, I think it was September last year, we did a live stream every day.
Uh-huh. It's funny, isn't it? Because like when the pandemic hit, we sort of took our podcast from audio only and into live streaming like this. And it was really new and everyone got dead excited. And they're like, oh, this is weird. It's live and this looks good. And then everyone else started to do it and now it's saturated again. So yeah, I can get why you're not doing it daily. So we're over Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn. So if you're watching this on catch up, great, because I realize it's 11 o'clock on a Wednesday morning. You're going to be busy. You're going to be busy sending emails that suck through Outlook, right? But we're going to hear about why we shouldn't be doing this right now. Just a quick one, lads. Is it like Ant and Dec? Do you get this? Someone's got to be on the left, someone's got to be right. So like, if
I'm always on the left. Although
right.
I'm on the top and Kennedy's on the bottom here, and that's a different thing. So let's not talk about that.
That's a different kind of gig.
I've just threw us everywhere now. This is a bit wild.
When the music stops, you've got to sit down, and whoever doesn't get a chair is out.
Right. How does that make you feel? Is that better?
Wow. I mean, I feel bad that we're on top.
Whoa, steady.
We're all doing those jokes now.
This is above the watershed. That looks better than left and right. Now, yeah. I asked you guys before we went live, where were you both? And you couldn't tell me. I didn't know where each other were, which is ridiculous.
We're in a secret location.
Secret location. Are you guys business partners then?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, Rob, do you want to tell the story about how we met's kind of weird?
So we've got this really bizarre story, that is that I'm for anyone listening to this, not watching it, I'm Rob with the red hair, Arthur Red, no more clues. Kennedy's the
good looking and really funny one.
Kennedy's the other one. Let's say the other one. I'm a hypnotist, right? So for the past 18 years, I've been traveling almost all over the world, performing my show as a comedy hypnotist, getting people on stage, hypnotizing them. You'll have seen it on the telly. Not me, but other people doing it. And
definitely not you.
Make do crazy things and then sending them back to the audience. And Kennedy is a mind reader. So he uses skills like psychology and body language and reading people and statistics to make it look a lot like he can read people's minds. And we met at a magic convention, a conference for magicians, like 20 years ago in the northeast of England, and just became mates. And then we were running our independent entertainment businesses. And the way that we got really busy as entertainers, because we didn't want to start a business, we just wanted to get out on stage and do the thing that we love doing. But you accidentally start a business, don't you, by doing the thing you like. And then you've got to learn branding, marketing, positioning, pricing, accounts, and all the other rubbish that none of us want to do, but sort of have to. And so we both just independently found email marketing as a really cool way. And, we're talking a long time ago, when not everyone had a list and everyone wasn't on a million lists. Even like putting a video on the internet was difficult then. So that's how long ago this was. And so we started to send emails in order to get booked for our gigs and get repeat gigs. And then other entertainers found out that we were two things that entertainers think it's impossible to be at the same time. We were expensive and busy. And if you ask any entertainer, they'll tell you that you can't be both expensive and busy. If you're busy, you must be cheap. And if you're expensive, you'll have no work on. That's how they feel about it. So we started coaching other entertainers how we were using email to get booked to do gigs, again, independently. And then that led to us just doing some like podcast interviews and stuff. And then we got asked to go and speak at a marketing event as Rob and Kennedy, these guys who teach email. And then since then, we've helped thousands of businesses, everything from a martial arts studio in Australia through to a guy in Cambridge who sells cakes on the healthy cakes on the internet and everything in between, to just sell more stuff using email that doesn't make you want to be really sick in your mouth.
Healthy cakes, is that a thing?
Apparently
yeah.
so, and that's why he's blowing it up.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Awesome. So are you guys still doing the hypnotist and things? Is that,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a quiet pandemic, but one of the things that happens is, you as an entertainer, you fly and travel and spend a lot of time sat in airports and departure lounges and train stations and on trains to do like an hour gig. And then you've got to do all the journey back again.
Yeah.
So like, we're lucky that we get to perform in places like Dubai and the Seychelles and America and stuff. So there's lots of traveling literally to do a 1 hour show and then come back.
Yeah.
So for us, this was like a really good business to like do. Initially, teaching entertainers how to grow better businesses. It was just sort of something we did to fill in the time. It was a good business. And so now we get to do all the things we love at the same time. And that's what life's about, isn't it?
So as speakers then, it's great to speak. It's great to get on that stage and inspire and share your journey and everything. But of course, it's a very small part of what you do, isn't it, as a speaker or an entertainer or whatever you do. Even in a marketing situation like us, if I was to sell, I'm probably only selling 5% of what I do.
Right.
We're actually doing the periphery stuff. So because we're so busy doing all that periphery stuff, is what you deliver, the email marketing sort of knowledge, is this to sort of fast track and stop doing things, that takes so much time? It's like almost being really super efficient with emails.
Do you know what really amazes me is we speak to people who are either in our programs or who listen to our podcast, the Email Marketing Show, and they write in and they say, why am I not making sales, blah, 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 blah. And then I want to always ask the same question. We often do ask the same question, which is, well, what have you done today that's actually driven you closer to making a sale? And often we'll sit back and go, nothing's happened. And so what we need to do is we need to make sure we have activity that is helping us make sales, helping us deepen relationships and move people closer to making a sale. And if you think, I often think about it as like a plate with different things on it. One of the things you have to do as a business is you have to grow our audience. We have to grow an audience of people who are aware of us. That's why you have a podcast. That's why you have a YouTube channel. That's why you're doing social media and doing all the pictures of your food on Instagram and all that sort of stuff that you're doing to build that audience. That's the first thing we've all got on our plate. We've got to do that stuff, otherwise no one's going to buy. Great. Networking events is another one of those things. The next thing you've got to do is you've got to have some kind of conversion thing, which is usually comes down to pretty much like email marketing, right? You've got to do something that keeps in touch with people and moves them closer to actually buying and making offers. You've got to make offers. And the great thing about email is if you've got 100 people on your email list or 100,000 people on your email list, every time you send an email out, you get the opportunity to make an offer at scale. You get a chance to make 100 offers or 100,000 offers. You get the chance to do that at scale. So you've got those two things. The third thing you've got to do, obviously, is deliver the thing that you sell. So if you make shoes, you've got to make your shoes. If you deliver coaching, you've got to be that coach. Whatever it is that you're doing, you've got to deliver the thing. They're the three things that are on all of our plates: audience, conversion, delivery. With really good email marketing, you can shrink one of those things, that conversion thing, down to take up so little of your time that actually you've got more time to either do the other two things more, build a bigger audience, deliver better stuff to clients, which means they recommend you and you grow through that word of mouth stuff. Awesome. More people end up in your email list, and because it's automated or whatever, the conversion thing continues to happen. Or you can do something amazing, which is you could spend more time with your partner. You could spend more time with your kids. You could spend more time on your PlayStation or having holidays or doing whatever the heck it is that you do. So the really beautiful thing that email marketing allows you to do when it's done right, and let's be honest, like everything, 99% of everything is tosh, is rubbish, is terrible. So 99% of singers are not Adele, because there's only one of them. 99% of absolutely everything is rubbish, which means most people are looking at their email marketing and they look at what other people are doing and going, well, I hate that. I hate all the emails I receive. Guess what? So do I. That's why Rob and I are on this mission to chat to as many people as possible and say, stop doing that terrible stuff. No one wants to receive it, which means you don't want to send it. Nobody's winning in this situation. So if you can do really good email marketing, maybe we'll get into some techniques on how to do that today. Hopefully that'll be fun to share. Then what's nice is you get to sell at scale without having to do some of the stuff you might not like doing. If you hate selling on the phone, guess what? We never sell on the phone, yet every single day we bring in new customers. We bring in new members to our membership program, into our masterminds, into our email writing agency every single day without speaking to somebody. Right now, we're doing audience building as we're talking to you. That's why we're here, because we want to tell more people about awesome email marketing. Some people will go, well, I didn't hate those people too much. I might want to go and learn it from them. Awesome. They might come and listen to the email marketing show or join them on our email list or whatever. We're doing that bit. But simultaneously, our email marketing is doing the next thing. And that's completely off our plate because this afternoon, I'm not going to be calling anybody and speaking to somebody to convert the sale. I'm going to be going for a walk along the beach, or I'm going to be doing anything else. So that's what can really happen when you get that email marketing really dialed in, really work, and making it really effective.
Just very quickly, I've got a little challenge for anyone watching and listening to this, right? I'd love to just as a prank and a wind up for everyone who's not watching this or listening to this. Can we all just go make a little motivational quote in Canva or something and put it on Instagram? And it's just going to be 99% of singers aren't Adele. Put it in quotes like it means something and attribute that to Kennedy. And if like the hundreds of thousands of people who hear this now just all go and put that on Instagram simultaneously, I think we can start a movement.
And tag saying. You guys in it, yeah.
Yeah, tag at Rob and Kennedy.
Let's pretend it means something, and we'll all go.
Yeah, 99% of singers are not on Adele. Yeah,
but it's funny, Rob, because he totally he blew it there earlier on. He said he's going to go and walk on the beach. So as you guys are business partners, 50-50 in this company, he's on the beach. What are you doing?
Well, he's in. Let's remember, he's near Whitley Bay. He's not in Miami or anything.
Yeah. Well, he's looking for sea glass, and he's probably making jewelry and that on the side because everything's all done because his email is so awesome.
Exactly.
Kennedy, you said about techniques, okay, and obviously people watching the want to know tips and tricks, so we get it, right? I'm sold. Exactly what you said is from a business owner's point of view. We understand that. So what can we do? Where do we start with this? I want to send an email. How can I do it better?
Yeah. Rob's got some great techniques.
Nicely done. You have a rest, Kennedy.
I think the very first thing that comes from this is the fact that we have to think of email differently, because at the minute we tend to think of it as this slimy, horrible thing that we have to do because it's a necessary evil. Like we've got to send emails because we've got to make sales, and we've been told that that's what it does. And we've got these subscribers, whether you've got 100 or 100 million of them, you've got some subscribers in your pool there, and you need to do something because you've been told that you do, and you've got to make sales. And if some of them unsubscribe or click the spam button, well, it's not great, and we feel a bit icky about it, but it's a necessary evil. And instead, the way that we like to think about it is that email's just another place to put your content, right? So the content we're recording right now and that you do on this podcast all the time, okay, this is people having conversations, talking about things, right? But it's just content on the internet, and therefore people hopefully find this valuable. And likewise, if you post on your Instagram with not 99 singers, but like genuine quotes, people find that beneficial as well. And if all we do on the internet is type words or speak words and click buttons, then we can do that by email. And there's no reason why that can't be valuable too. So we want to think about email as being another place where you just put your content. And therefore, if it's just another place where you put great content, that's another place where people can benefit from that content. If people benefit from it, then they're going to like it. So what we want to do is we want to think about email as being a thing that people can actually actively look forward to receiving. Don't build an email list of people because you can and then email them because you can. Build a list of people who want to hear from you, and then you'll want to email them, right? You'll want to put your content in front of people. You know, when you're at like a party, a gathering somewhere, and somebody says, oh, Ian, come here. Come and tell them that hilarious story about that time with a seagull. Go on, tell them the story. You can't wait to tell them the story because you've been invited to tell it. You probably wouldn't tell it of your own accord. You'd probably stand quietly and wait for someone to ask to tell them the story. But
can you imagine for that person, we've got different little groups at a party going, hey, I've got a story about a seagull. Want to hear it? That'd be weird.
So what you want to do is you want to feel like you're invited. You want to feel like you're able to send them stuff. And the way you do that is by building a list of people who want to hear from you. And what that means is, of course, not just emailing every time you want to sell something. So that's the problem. Is what most people do right now is they either send like a monthly newsletter or a weekly newsletter, which is basically a collection of rubbish that nobody wants to hear from you in a format that's hard to read, infrequently, and when it suits you, not when it suits them. Or you do the opposite of that, which is you kind of ghost them and go deadly quiet until you're ready to sell something, like you're suddenly doing a special offer on pens or something. And you go, oh, we're doing a special offer on pens. We email everyone and tell them about the pens, right? And then somebody toddles over to the computer, writes this email, sends it out, and sort of hopes for the best. And instead, our approach to email is to say, well, let's actually send emails that people want to receive with content they want to receive them. And we're going to send them as often as we want in our business every day. Send an email every day, 365 days of the year, including Christmas Day. If you're a bit more B2B, then you might want to make that Monday to Friday, maybe. But like that sort of frequency is great. Any less than 3 times a week, honestly, in our opinion, if you're sending emails less than 3 times a week, and people might want to sit down here, folks, we think you might as well not bother. Like, it's just not going to have the impact that you're expecting it to have. And it's actually just not worth the effort putting in. So for us, and that's a sweeping statement, but it's also very true. So for us, we want to create content, send emails that build connections with your subscribers every single day or every single week, several times a week, so that when they're ready to buy from you, you're just like, that far from the top of their inbox. Like, you're so reachable, and they don't have to go, oh, what was that? Was it Ian or Andy? What was his name? They don't have to do that. They just have to go, oh, Ian can help with that. I'll go and sign him immediately. And so what we know is, like, we were just looking this morning at some of the people who joined our email list like 8 and 9 months ago, who've just joined our program today. And what that means is that we've got really good processes in place to make sure they know what the program is, what it does, why it's good for them, why they should join it. But for some people, the timing's just not there. So we want to make sure that we're top of mind the minute people. But those people have continued to read and look at our emails every day for 9 months until it was the right time, until they heard the exact thing that was going to make them jump on this opportunity. So for us, it's all about sending emails people want to receive and just knowing that that's even possible.
And here's a really interesting thing as well, is people think, well, if I show up multiple times a week, it makes me look like I'm being really salesy. Actually, the opposite is true. I mean, as you'd imagine, our background being in psychology, being a mind reader and a hypnotist, we really delve into a lot of studies around how people think and what's really going on. If you think about it, what most people do is they've got a thing that's on sale now, and they email their list and tell them about it. We've got this new product. It's great. You should buy it now, and the early bird price, and another excuse to email you, and here's what people think about it. You should buy it. And then once that's over, they kind of go a bit quiet. And the only time we hear from that person in the future is when they've got the next thing to sell, or that thing's on sale again, or that event's coming up, or that thing, which basically means, by very definition, the only time I ever get an email from this person, I'm going to see that email come in and go, what's Ian got for sale this week then? That's what happens. Whereas actually, if you're just showing up with value every single day, for example, there is no switch to sales mode. It's always that you're showing up, building that relationship, giving that value. So now they know that you're always going to be there, regardless if you're in sales mode or not.
Awesome. Right. 2 questions, one each, right? Kennedy, how do you continually create value, and what does value look like? And Rob, frequency bit, I love that, because you're right, you're telling people to sit down because you're going to email them every day or every 5 times a week. It is a lot for people to understand. I guess it's a great filter, because the people who don't want to hear from you every day just unsubscribe, and the people that do want to hear from you every day still stay subscribed for the 9 months, and then to reach out and then become part of your funnel, if you like, to join your programs. Is that the purpose? Is that to filter out the people who you don't want?
Yeah, I mean, partly. One of the things we do, I mean, we take the opinion that there's a few things that people worry about, like people unsubscribing. I worked hard or paid money to get that subscriber. It cost me $5 in Facebook ads to acquire that person. They've unsubscribed. That's a $5 gone. And the way that we do it instead is, instead of worrying about unsubscribes and worrying about people complaining or replying to you and telling you rude words and that kind of thing, our approach is this: your email list is your house, and you invited them in, right? So I write most of our emails for this particular business. We send 4 daily emails every day between us for a couple of different businesses, but I write most of the emails for Email Marketing Heroes. And the way I do it is, I'm almost writing those emails for myself. It's almost like a therapeutic thing where I'm writing stuff that I want to send, and people who want to receive it can, and people who don't. So we really see it as people have come into our house. We haven't barged into their house and kicked the kitchen door in and barged in through the conservatory. Like, we've invited them into our house, and therefore the wallpaper is the wallpaper we chose. We've got the ornaments we wanted on the mantelpiece, and if they don't like them, that's okay. They can leave, but they can't come in and say, what's that wallpaper about? This is too much. Your tea's horrible. Like, they can't do that because you invited them in. And at any point they can leave. And we tend to think of email as being an intrusive thing where we've kicked the door in and gone into their house. But the way that we set it up is really simple. We use something as a welcome sequence. Ours is called the Getting to Know You sequence, because we're huge musical theatre fans, and that's a song from the musical The King and I. Surprise, surprise. And so basically what we like to do is to tell people what they're going to get and then give it to them. So the minute people join our list, we send them 4 emails over 4 days that everybody gets. And it's literally saying, this is who we are. This is why it's good. This is why you'll like it. This is what's going to happen. This is why it's good for you. This is why you'll want to hang around. Here's what's happening next. And when you set that level of context, you can really do anything you want. If we wanted to send 10 emails a day, as long as we set that up in that beginning bit and give people the chance to get out if that's not for them, And it's kind of all right to a point. So what we do is it's a bit like, when you get on a train and you sit down and you make yourself comfortable, you put your bag on the seat next to you just in case. And then basically the train sets off and you hear the train guard come over the tannoy thing. And why they can't get better microphones in 2022, I'll never know. I've got one in my house. Anyway, the voice comes over the tannoy and says, welcome aboard the 1932 service to London King's Cross, calling at here, 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 and there. In a minute, some woman's going to come down. She'll be grumpy, but she'll sell you a Fanta and a Twix. Here's what to expect. And that's what's going to happen. You feel good about it because you think, oh, good, this is good. I'm in the right train. I'm on the right train. Unless you're not, in which case you can get off, and that's all right too, right? You're on the right train, you're heading the right place, you can check you're in the right seat, you know exactly what's going to happen, what the rules at play are. And that's great because now everything's in context. So we think of that sort of first batch of emails, especially the first one, as setting the rules, setting the context, making sure everybody knows what they're going to do, just like the train guard does when he makes that announcement at the start of a train journey. And once that's set up, you can do whatever you want. And like you said, it really allows you to very quickly filter out the people for whom that's not for.
Just before you come in, Kennedy, with the value bit, how do you feel about unsubscribers, Rob? Does it hurt you inside? Do you feel like dying a little bit, or are you just thick-skinned with it?
It's fine, and it's not because we treat them like a big trough of numbers. Like, we do think of every person as a person, but at the same time, we're not for everybody. I don't like everybody. I can't expect everybody to like us. I think that that's important, but also, and just on like I paid money or worked hard for that person, especially if you like running ads or something and you haven't done it for very long, and you've maybe got 50 new subscribers and you've paid $5 each to get them. It's quite easy to look at that and go, that math is quite difficult, so I'm going to make this different. Let's imagine you've got 100 subscribers and you've paid $5 for them, right? Then you look, it's easy to look at them and go, wow, I paid 500 quid to get those 100 subscribers. You don't have to be smart to do email marketing, by the way. And so instead of going, well, that person's unsubscribed and that person's unsubscribed, I've just lost a tenner, 2 $5s. Show me working out, you get extra points for that and a sticker. Instead of saying, well, I've just lost those 2 subscribers, that's a tenner gone. Instead of trying to make each $5 back from each person, that's never going to work. Instead, you have to go, right, I've got 100 subscribers here and I've got to make 500 quid back from them to break even. Any more than that and I'm in profit. So if you've got £1,000 thing, you go, well, I've just got to sell one of those 500 people my £1,000 thing. Or if your thing's 20 quid, then you can do the maths to figure that out, rather than independently clinging on to the $5 that it cost you to get everybody. Otherwise you'll go insane. So yeah, we're just quite thick-skinned about it. People unsubscribe, that's okay. Some people will swear in the little comments box and tell you nasty things. That's all right as well. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but the rest of the subscribers will pay us.
Anyway, doesn't it? We get replies and people saying nasty things, and guess what tomorrow's email is? It's a screenshot of that reply and turning that into a lesson, which I kind of guess sort of leads into this idea of what is value. And this is one of the things that we sat down, I can't even think how long ago now, when we were not teaching email marketing at all. We hadn't even thought about teaching email marketing. It's when we were just doing it for our gigs businesses and teaching other entertainer stuff. I was like, have you ever sat down at your email platform, opened up that big scary white blank page and thought, right, I'm gonna send some value? What's value? Like, what does that mean? What is that? Send some value. They'll all say that on Instagram. Oh, how do I get more customers? You go to that Facebook group or that LinkedIn thing. You go, how do I get more customers? Oh, give value. Yeah, mate. What does that mean? All these pretend business coaches. So what we do is we sat down. We thought, what is value, right? What is
brutal? That Kennedy, brutal.
Well, everyone's a business coach, aren't they?
Aren't they just? Yeah.
So, but they're so busy that they're on LinkedIn all the time. So what we did is we sat down and decided, like, what is value? And we basically came up with 9 different types of value. Rather than like tell you what all 9 things are now, let's make it even easier. The reason that people are on your email list, or even in your world at all, following you on Instagram, on your LinkedIn, wherever, in all seriousness, is because they want to learn things from you or they want to feel things. That's the only 2 things people get value from: learning and feeling. Feeling is why you watch films. It's why the interesting and more entertaining vlogs and vloggers and podcasters and YouTubers and Instagrammers. It's why you continue to consume their content, because escaping into story is really, really valuable. The other one is when you teach things to people, when they learn stuff, it's because they want to improve, in our case, their email marketing. They want to improve or learn about the thing that you do in your business. And that's the 2 things. The problem that most people have with their email marketing is they run out of ideas, like you said, Ian, right? Mm-hmm. They run out of ideas of what shall I send? And the reason that happens, and this was us until about 6-7 years ago, was we focus on, I've got to teach stuff, because we only think there's value to other people when we teach them the tips on this and how to do that and all that sort of stuff. Actually, learning stuff is way less valuable than how we feel. Logical lists of, how many times have we heard the 7 steps you need to have in every sales offer you ever make, or the 13-step sales process you need to go through, like all those sort of things. Do we remember them? No, we probably can't list them off the top of our heads unless we're a sales trainer. But for most of us mere mortals, we can't do that. Whereas there are stories we tell today about stuff that happened years ago. Why? Because they're really valuable. There's probably a moral to that story. There's probably something you learned about yourself or the world, about other people from that story. And physiologically, stories take up more space in people's brains. And what's really beautiful about telling a story, like Rob was telling some stories just then about various things. And what happens when you tell a story is we can't help it as human beings, but put ourselves into the story in the first person. Yeah. And that's why you go see the latest Scream film and you're a bit scared. Or you go and see that comedy film where everything goes wrong and you laugh because you identify with it, because you imagine yourself in the story. And that's what's important about this. So the shortcut actually to all of this that we figured out is if you tell stories in your emails, one, if you're telling stories about your world and what you're doing, you'll build deep levels of trust. Secondly, you'll never run out of stuff to say, because while there might only be 500 features and benefits of your product, that's only 500 emails. And there's probably not 500. Whereas there are unlimited stories about stuff that's going on. And I'll give you a tip in a second about how to identify these stories. But a really interesting framework, one of the most effective frameworks we've created for sending emails as often as every single day. Because our challenge was like, okay, if we're going to send emails every day, we're going to make this easy. We're going to make it easy to send them, because why would you create additional friction for anything in your life or business? You wouldn't do that. So let's create lots of shortcuts. Let's not have those mental calories required for this, right? Let's remove and reduce that cognitive load. So how do we do that? We look back over the last 24 hours and just go, and this is a really important question, what was the least boring thing that happened in the last 24 hours? Now, that question is not what's the most interesting thing, because your brain will go, nothing interesting ever happens to me. I was just sat against this lovely wall and that's all I did all day. Like, that will hurt your brain. Instead, if you say, what was the least boring thing? Well, the least boring thing might have been, I was doing this podcast, this live stream, and I felt like I was thrown into the deep end and we ended up with this really interesting conversation. That's the story. Like, it might be 2 or 3 or 4 lines long. That's the thing. That's the hook. And you can never run out of the least boring thing that happened in the last 24 hours. You can't. It was always yesterday, right? So that's the first thing. And then what we're going to do is, that's the story part. This is a 3-part framework. Story's the first part. The second part is the lesson. What is the moral of the story? If we're going to look at in our emails, rather than sending, and this is really important, we need to stop sending emails about what we sell. I know that sounds insane, but the only people opening emails about what you sell are people who are already ready to buy. So it doesn't matter how good your email copy is or how whiz-bang your template is. Doesn't matter. Because the people opening those emails are already ready to buy anyway. They just want to know what the latest offer is, the latest price, the latest price break, the latest when does it start. They're so far down the buyer journey, they're like ready to go, credit card in hand. The people you really want to communicate with your email marketing are the people who are not there yet. So you can use other things to move them down that journey. So if in that email, you serve their emotional needs, what are the emotional needs of your audience? What do they all have in common? So give you an example. Most of our audience at Email Marketing Heroes are people who have their own business. They have either a remote team or a small team. They're probably working from home quite a bit. So what do they all have in common? They have in common that they're partway through a live stream and the Amazon guy will always knock on the door. They know that. They know that they've been during lockdown. They've had to buy stuff on the internet. So Rob did an email which was all about buying a mattress on the internet. How do you do that when you can't sit and squint on it and pound something down and look like a Wally in the shop? How do you do that? So these are all things that your audience can resonate with. So you take your story about the everyday happenings of your life, but the audience puts themselves in and thinks, oh, I'm just like that person. There's a person behind this brand. That's really important. We buy from the people. We never buy from the company, right? We all know that as marketing 101. So we tell the story, then we transition into what is the moral of the story? We call that the lesson. What is the thing we can pull out that the audience will go, that's a good little tip. It's in the case of Rob buying a mattress on the internet, he said, have you ever tried to buy a mattress on the internet? I didn't know how firm I wanted it. How firm's firm? And then the lesson from that might have been something like, buying anything on the internet actually has a risk. How are you reducing that risk and building confidence with your email subscribers? That's a really interesting point. How am I doing that? That's story and lesson. And then the third element of every email is the offer. It's the call to action. It's the thing you want them, the action you want them to take. And that might be a free thing. It might be, and we talk about that in this week's episode of our podcast, The Email Marketing Show. Click here to go and listen to it. It might be, we're talking about on this week's Facebook Live. Put it in your calendar. It might be, hey, we talk about that in module 6 of my course, or this is in our membership, the league, whatever. So it could be a paid or it could be a free call to action. What's beautiful about this framework, this story, lesson, offer, SLO framework, is you never need that additional cognitive load. Remember, this is all about reducing the friction, reducing the amount of effort required for you to send it out. And these emails, by the way, are about 175 to 200 words long. That is it. There's no pictures. There's nothing. It looks like an email your friend just sent you from his Gmail account. That's what it looks like. Because again, that reduces that load for both them receiving it and you sending it. So what does that actually mean? That means every single time you send one of these emails, you're not sitting down wondering, oh, is today a day I've got to give more value, or can I actually offer something for sale? I've been too salesy recently. You don't need to worry about that. Because every day you follow SLO, story, lesson, offer. And that means you are automatically, without having to think or having to do anything, without having to look at your calendar or what you even sent recently, you know that today you're going to send a story in that email. That's valuable. We know that. We're going to send a lesson. That's valuable. We know that. And then we're going to send an offer. We're going to outweigh our ask, our offer 2-to-1 with value every single time. And you can't even help it. And that's what we mean by reducing the load. We try and create frameworks and share email marketing strategies where it's not just easy. You can't even help making it work.
I think you're going to drop your mic there after that. No? Absolutely awesome. Right. Okay. What did I pick out that? Really interesting what you said there, Kennedy, about, B2C businesses, maybe micro businesses that might be sort of creating email. What about the SMEs? Listen to this, okay? The people who are business to business, and how do they tell stories?
Totally, we get this all the time. It is interesting. Rob, do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think those businesses have even more opportunity to do this. And this is what's cool about it. Because those businesses have more people with stories to tell. I think the big thing is, gone are the days, if we go back 10 years, every micro business, like every one-man business, was writing web copy or flyers copy that said things like, we are a family-based firm and blah, 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 blah. And everyone was trying to, people started saying, established in whenever, like they were an investment bank or something. And everyone was trying to puff up their chest. And we did it too. Kennedy and I can both tell you that back in our early days of having entertainment businesses, we had a fake assistant woman who was just us with Barbara at instead of Rob at. And that person, if it was chasing an invoice or something, it was old bloody mean Barbara who's been sat on nettles all morning and now she's chasing our invoices. It was never Rob or Kennedy. So because we all wanted to be bigger than we are. And now actually the opposite is true. Now what really needs to happen is larger businesses, SMEs and beyond, really need to shrink down. They really need to become the person behind the business, because nobody trusts anybody behind the corporate facade anymore. Nobody trusts the fat cat sat at the top of some hierarchy somewhere. So for us, that's all about, and we've worked with clients major lobbying firms who are lobbying at government level. Huge organizations have done this exact same thing with really good success, and that is to humanize the brand. And there's a few ways you can do that. It could be that you've got one person who does your email marketing in your business, and that person becomes the voice and everything of the business. It could be that you've got a few people who do even if one person writes all the emails. It could be that you've got a few people who are the characters that your emails appear to be sent from. So you've got Sam, Alex, and Jessica or whatever, and they send the emails. And again, what you're now going to do is you're going to tell stories about what's gone on in their life. You're going to talk about your customers' stories. You're going to talk about the other members of the team's stories. You're going to talk about stories from the owner of the business. You're going to talk about stories from the cleaning woman. You're going to talk about stories from all the people who surround your business. And you've got stories and lessons that reflect the mission of the business, why it exists, the founding story, the big successes, the big failures, the hardships. Like, there's just so much more to talk about. If you're a one man or one woman, one person business, you've got your stories, the stories of your immediate family you can pull into this, and your friends, and that's kind of it. Whereas if you're a business with 100 employees, 50 employees, 1,000 employees, whatever, you've got so much more to pull from. So, and again, you've got a bigger opportunity because so many businesses at that level aren't doing this. So many businesses, you receive an email from them and it's from the business name and it just gets archived or folded immediately, compared to if it came from, like, I mean, here's a stupid example. Let's just go massive. So we pick a business we've all heard of. Let's go for like Sainsbury's or Tesco or somebody. When the email comes through, because you're in the Tesco club card scheme or whatever, it comes from Tesco. But imagine if next week you got an email and it said from the from name, because that's really what gets your emails open. It's not the subject line. The subject line is like the icing on the cake. The bit that gets your email opened is your name landing in their inbox. If Kennedy or if you, Ian, if you emailed me, I'm going to open that email, even if you didn't put a subject line in. So I don't care what it is. I just want to know what you had to say. So if that comes from Sainsbury's, that's the first thing you see, because typically we read left to right. So you're going to see the word Sainsbury's, and then you're probably going to not even look at the subject line. You're probably going to go, it's going to tell us how many points I've got, and I'm going to archive it. And I don't care. I'm going to archive the email. I'll find out how many points I've got when I get to the checkout. So you're going to just delete that. Whereas if it said from Terry at Sainsbury's, if that happened next week, I can guarantee their open rates would go up. I can guarantee more people will open that email because people want to know, hang on, who's Terry at Sainsbury's and why is he emailing? Like, what's Terry at Sainsbury's? I want to see what that is. So for us, it's all about humanizing the brand. And
I tell you who's done this really, really well, actually, Rob, is Charles Tyrwhitt shirts.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They have done it. Yeah, so we buy Charles Tyrwhitt shirts, right? But again, their emails have such personality to them compared to all of the shirt brands who just email you with their newsletter about shirts.
You even know how to say the surname because they tell you, don't they?
Yeah, it's true.
It's really interesting because what you find, Rob, is that the bigger brands won't do it. They're very risk averse. That they've got values and mission statements and tone of voice and all this stuff, and everyone's so scared in the organization to do that no one wants to do it and put their head on the block. So, Sainsbury's is a huge example, but even coming down in the SME space, let's just say someone's got 100 employees. They almost, like what you touched upon before, is they try to be the bigger company, they act like the bigger company. They put lots of process in, stem all innovation and agility. It just stops because they don't move that way. So what would you say to them, and how do you get them across to thinking about this humanization piece and just saying, look, come on, guys, I know if you do Terry out, it's going to hit the open rate, but someone needs to do it. What do you say?
It's a great question.
I think one of the things you can do is start a segment down. So like you don't have to treat your entire list of 10,000 people or whatever, or 100,000 people in one go. I think what I'd be looking to do is start to segment down and just test it, because all you're looking for initially, and if you're an enterprising person working in one of these businesses, then this is something to take to whoever you report to. And if you're the guy at the top or the girl at the top, then this is something to just test. Because if you take a small segment of your business, let's imagine you took your most engaged, so the people, you can kind of ignore open rates now because they're wrong, but like the people who most often click, reply, and buy. So you might look at like frequency of purchase, recency of purchase, that stuff. You might look at the people who've engaged most often, just in your business, whatever you want it to be. Decide what you consider to be your most engaged, interesting people, and send them a different email. Just send them 3 or 4 emails over the course of 3 or 4 days. So we're not talking daily forever. We're talking just a little 3 or 4 day sprint to get them to do something. It might be to go and leave a review. It might be to reply to you and tell you something. It might be to fill in a quick survey, whatever. And send it from Miranda / and the business name instead of just the business name. And just watch what happens. Just watch the response you get. I mean, we've never seen a case where that was negative. We've always seen a case where it lifted and it got an improvement. And basically, you just prove it to yourself, then, don't you? You watch the data happen, and you go, great. Well, if that worked with our most engaged, most recent segment, let's see what we can do to mix this into the general list, and just slowly roll it out so that you become more comfortable with it, one foot in front of the other. And if it doesn't work, go back to doing what you're always doing.
Yeah.
That's all right. There's nothing particularly lost.
And let's remember as well that it's easy for us to remember if we're in B2B. So we sell B2B as well, and it's easy to forget that we're a human being, we're sending an email, and the person reading on the other end of that email is another human being. We are never sending in it. There's no such thing as B2B, really.
Yeah.
Right? We're all selling to the individuals who make a decision or can inform where the decision gets made. So what we're looking at here is making those relationships between this voice, fictional or not fictional, in our business with the person receiving it on the other end. And that's why people read the chairman's whatever it's called, or and that kind of thing, because we care about the people. And if we can get our customers, our potential customers, to care about us, Sales 101 is they're buying the salesperson, not the flipping product. Like Sales 101. Like so many things, like thinking of email as a content channel, selling it B2B, making it one-to-one. None of this has been moved into the email space. So that's why email's like lagging behind, like the ugly cousin behind there, because no one's taken those skills and those updates and those changes in literally societal culture and applied them to how people open their emails. Look, at the end of the day, email's another app. It's not a thing people sit down and read on their computers anymore. It's another app between TikTok and Tinder on their phone. That's where people are reading these things. So if we can deliver the content and be valuable, just like the other content people are consuming, then they're going to reach out. And what's awesome is if you do this now, you're ahead of the curve, so that your stuff will stand out when every other SME, every other engineering company is going, oh, this week we did a survey on a thing, and then you're sending people into a flipping coma by the end of their email. Make them more interesting.
A really good example of this at play is if you go to any business conference where you've got, 12, 15 speakers and you've been sent there by work, or you're the business owner and you've gone to watch it. The speaker who always gets revered, talked about the most, makes the most impact, is the one where everyone goes, oh my God, have you seen that they're speaking? I can't wait to see that. Is the one who's not just pointing at charts and revealing statistics, but they wrap that into stories about how their wife or husband came home that day and slammed their bag on the table and kicked off at them. And they tell this amazing story. Why? Because we're interested in that stuff. The one who comes on with a real pattern interrupt and is edgy and different and out there and tells stories and is interesting, that's the one where nobody's going to sleep. That's the one where the room is packed out. It's the same audience, it's just a different outlet. So just because you've had a day out of the office and you're in some hotel somewhere watching a speaker speak, the same thing applies to email, or should apply to email, and it really does work.
But it's really interesting because that speaker there who tells a story, the next day you'll only remember 10% of that story or that message. But, it's like what they always say, that you'll remember how you made them feel. And obviously the next day after that, it'll just decrease and they'll probably forget what that messaging was. They might remember the story actually, but they'll probably forget the message in there. With an email though, you can open it again. Do you know what I mean? There'll be an email and someone may actually move that into their folder and think, I'm going to open that because it was a really good message in there that sometimes I want to remind myself about. And this is quite crazy. I don't know how you feel about this, lads, but I subscribe to a weekly email that I pay for. So I pay for someone to send me an email, which has got so much value in there. And it actually doesn't really help me from a business point of view. It's almost like a life thing. Like, have you watched this lovely video? Look at this animation. Here's a story from here. And they're like collating and curating stuff. And I pay for that. Yeah. So when I'm talking about my clients about the power of email, I tell them this and they go, you pay for an email? Yeah.
Well, Ian, my first ever online product, and it was for entertainers, it was for magicians specifically. It was an email every single day for 28 days that helped people to go from no business plan to having basically a business plan. I didn't call it that, but it was having a constant flow of gig is what it was about. And that was 69 quid. People pay me 69 quid for that month to get an email from every day. So when you're positioning this idea of sending an email to people 3 times a week, 5, 7 times a week, whatever it's going to be, remember that is valuable. Don't apologize. Don't be like, oh, and by the way, I am going to email you every day. So there's no, instead what you want to be is like, and as well as getting this freebie, this lead magnet, this cool report, I'm also going to show up every single day and give you a new idea, a new tip that's going to keep you focused on your whatever it is that you do. And it's going to help you move forward with that. Flipping heck. You're like basically remote coaching these people every single day. That's mega valuable.
Can I just ask the psychology of 69 quid?
There wasn't any at the time, I don't think.
You could have picked any other number, brother, but you had to go for that one, didn't you?
Yeah.
Can I just get in the weeds before we wrap it up about a couple of little technical? Rob, you said something great, and it really struck in my mind. You said open rates are I can't remember how to paraphrase, but I think you were saying, right, the rubbish, how you can't sort of depend on them. What's your thoughts with that?
Yes, I mean, they've always been wrong just because of the technology in them. So the way it works, very briefly, is there's a tiny little tracking pixel in every email that you send, as long as it's an HTML-based email, which most of what we do now is. And you send from most of the email marketing platforms. And that goes, and basically when somebody opens it in Gmail or AOL or Yahoo or whatever, that triggers, and then it fires back over, a bit like a Facebook pixel, fires back over to your email platform, and they go, oh, somebody's opened that. And the problem is what started to happen was a bunch of, if you've ever opened an email and there's a thing along the top, like the email looks weird, and there's a thing along the top that says images in this email were not loaded. Click here to load them. Well, effectively, if they didn't load, the tracking pixel didn't load either. But a lot of the time, those images will load, and the more granular tracking stuff just doesn't work. So pixel tracking's always been out. It's always been off. It's always been inaccurate. And then with the advent of iOS 15, what happened was, of course, Apple said, we're now going to automatically, and there was a bit of woolliness around what this was going to be and how it was going to really play out. But what's actually happened now is if you open your emails on like Apple Mail, bear in mind that still could be Gmail or Yahoo or whatever, but open through the Apple Mail client, they just mark all emails as opened, even if they weren't. It lands in the inbox and they go, right, that was opened. And Android phones, a lot of them are actively blocking the open reporting. So you've got Apple over reporting, you've got Android under reporting, and then more and more email clients like Mozilla, who make Firefox, they released one that automatically blocks opens. So it's just inaccurate. The only thing that we can go on, so it's consistently inaccurate though. So if you watch your open rates going up, they're wrong, but they probably are actually going up. And if they're going down, they probably are going down. But in terms of what the number is, it doesn't mean a lot.
Okay.
So loads of people recently have said, oh, I've started noticing my open rates go up. Well, you have, but that's just Apple reporting everything is open. So what we do instead is we really focus on click-through rates, and we give people stuff to click in every single email, because that's totally accurate, because there is a way they could do it, but it would be really hard for them to block that reporting. And so we do, we just focus everything on click-through rates.
Excellent. I'm glad you shared that. I wasn't aware of that, so that's pretty cool. Also, next one. Okay, I'm putting myself in customer shoes. HTML, plain text, MailChimp. What am I doing?
To be honest, I mean, the reason that they used to be, I remember when I first started online doing the online marketing bit, you could like choose to send like your emails as plain text, HTML, or both, and it had a fancy name. And that's what kind of a lot of people did. And that was because mostly the thing that would frustrate people on receiving HTML emails was the fact that it took a while to download them. Because we all had a Nokia 3210, or, I mean, not quite, but like a little bit further on than that. And broadband and Wi-Fi were not a big thing. The speed you were getting to download on your phone was really poor. All of those sorts of things meant that downloading HTML emails was like painfully slow, which was killing people's results because people are impatient. Like if it takes half a second for an email to load, they're gone. They're like, this is broken, gone. And they've moved on and forgotten about it. But of course, now we've got things like 5G, 4G, super fast and available everywhere. You're pretty much connected to Wi-Fi most of the places that you are on your phone right now. So downloading HTML is what pretty much all email is right now. It might look like it's plain text. It might just be text. But HTML is the code that sits behind it. We'll not get into all of that, but that's what it is. What we don't want to do, though, what we found in extensive tests, not just in our business, but with a lot of our members and our clients, is if you remove images pretty much completely from your emails, you'll see better click-through rates. You'll see better results and sales. The theories we have around this are, one, they're one of the signals, and it's not all as cut and dry as this, as to how you might end up in the promotions folder or the spam folder. Now, I haven't got time to go into how spam works, but basically, it's a bit like a credit scoring system. If you do, people say, oh, you can't use the word free in your email subject line, otherwise you go to spam. Not true. If you're doing everything else right, you can definitely use the word free. There's lots of different things you can do for that. So that's one little tiny thing. But the main thing to not use images in your emails for is because look at the best-selling books in the world are fiction books. The best-selling books in the world that sell the most copies are fiction books. J.K. Rowling doesn't get to chapter 6 and go, I'll whack a quick doodle into this. He doesn't do it. And the reason she doesn't do it is because it's not effective at engaging people's imaginations. When we engage people's imaginations, they put themselves into the story. You don't show them the picture, right? The reason another part of that really related to it is, for example, if my story is about, oh, thank God we got rid of our terrible couch. We had this awful, ugly couch that we won on Bruce's Price is Right once, and have finally gotten rid of it. It's this awful color. And you're reading this and going, oh, you poor thing. Right? You're thinking about what that couch might look like, an awful couch. And for you, that couch might be yellow, it might be green, it might be blue, it might be tatty. You don't know, but you know it's an awful couch. In your brain, you've made that picture. But then if I put a picture in and it's this tatty yellow couch or just a yellow couch, you go, well, I like that couch. I think it's lovely. I've got that couch. I've just
got that one, yeah.
I'm waiting for it to come because it was in the DFS sale, which was ending soon. And I've just ordered it. And it's not, you've now got a disconnect with your audience. You don't need to do that. So just having the text in there. Another thing that we actually talked about in a recent podcast episode as well is like those section breaks where you're like, here's the section. So it looks like a school newsletter. Mm-hmm. The problem with that is it doesn't feel very like it's sent from a person. It very much feels like it's sent from a company, which you don't want. But also what we realized is every time one of those section ends, you're basically showing somebody the door to stop reading your email. They're going, oh, I've completed that thought now. Actually, I must just go and do X. That's bad sales. That's bad marketing. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure they're constantly in flow. Have one story, one message, one offer, every single email, lead through it. And one of the big things that we give feedback on is usually the reason you run out of ideas for emails is because you're putting too much stuff in one email. Spread them out.
Yeah. And what about then linking to websites, for instance, the tatty sofa? Would you say, this is the sofa story, and then click here to see it? So you push them to the website. Is that a thing?
Well, no, probably not, because I can't. I'm just trying to think of an example there where you would want to do that. Because if they're just clicking to see a picture of the sofa, you're not driving people towards taking an action such as booking an appointment or getting on a call or buying the product or service, right? So your call to action for clicking on the thing would be you tell the story, you'd make the lesson from it, and then the offer is where the link comes in. Cool. So you say, get rid of this tatty sofa. I'm just making this up on the spot. So get rid of this tatty sofa. The lesson from that is sometimes you have to just put it with what you've got for right now. Imperfect action is absolutely fine. Just get stuff done. Cool. We show you some fast ways of getting stuff done in our program, The League. Come and join that thing. Here's the link. And so we're just going to be sending people to the sales page because that's where we're going to be sending them, and that's the way people join.
Nicely done. You got out that pretty well, mate.
What happens to you every day? So when you first start writing these emails, like I'm really quite heavily dyslexic, so I find writing and reading like naturally just difficult, and that's one of the reasons I started writing every day, because I thought, well, I'll just like train myself to do it, and I'm going to use that as my reason, not my excuse, right? I'm going to use it as my reason to, not my excuse not to, right? And when you first start writing this type of email, it might take you 30 minutes to write an email. But if that's a really profitable 30 minutes activity you do every day, it's worth doing. Now, like having done this, I don't think I've been sending daily emails for like 5 years. I do it first thing in the morning. I'm one of those really annoying morning people. I get up at like 5:30. I go down, get into the kitchen, fill the kettle, and as it's boiling, for my first cup of tea of the day, I flip my laptop open at the bench in the kitchen, and I write my daily email. So that must be like 4 minutes, something like that. And by the time that kettle boils, I've written the email, and I've selected the segment, which is just like everyone who's supposed to receive it. And I've hit send, and I've closed the laptop, and it's done. And then I get the reward of having a nice cup of tea in the morning. So yeah, it might take you half an hour to begin with, but it can get a lot faster, even if you're dyslexic like me.
Love it. Last one from me then. About tools, what tool would you use to track stuff?
So we do a couple of things. For a lot of stuff, we use the native tracking that's built into the email platform. We just ignore the open rates. It's actually, we use Keep, formerly known as Infusionsoft, have done forever. They've actually just announced they're removing the open rate tracking thing, or they're hiding it or making it smaller or something after we've been campaigning about this open rate thing for ages. But aside from that, the other thing we really heavily use is Google's sort of UTM parameter type approach, which is just a free thing you can just do to track where all our traffic is coming from. So like everything we do uses the 5 main UTM parameters. Far too geeky and boring to go into that now, but if you go Google UTM parameters, you'll find out all about that. We split test everything. So there's loads of different web tools for split testing stuff. We use one that's built into like our page builders and that kind of thing. So we want to have 2 or 3 versions of everything running at any one time and just constantly killing the control and finding a new winner. That's our kind of, that's about as techie as we get, really.
Excellent stuff. Well, I'm glad we had a little bit tech in there, because in this broadcast, in this podcast, there's something for everybody in there. But I think, the main takeaway for me is just starting to speak to your clients and customers that want to hear from you. And if they don't, they'll unsubscribe. But, they do want to hear, and they don't want to hear the salesy side. They want to hear stories. And yes, Kennedy, I get the overused term of give value, but, what does that look like? And I think, if anything, it's made people actually sit back and go, what is value? What is value to my client? And what have I got that's of value, rather than what I think that I've been doing for the last 2 years is valuable?
Exactly.
Good. So, well, thanks for your time. I really enjoyed that. And I'm sure we'll get a whole host of questions coming back from the podcast when it goes out. So thanks for your time, guys. Maybe we'll do this again one day.
That sounds fun. Thanks again. Cheers.
Excellent. Cheers.